Freeze.
WTF? Wall hacking?
Well, you see, when we examine the differences between a normal person and a WoW addict, what shows up, or if I may, appears, or even manifests, I think is a good term here, manifests, is the reallocation, the shifting of priorities or concerns or responsibilities, but they retain the same proportion or comparative ratio of fractions when it comes to these priorities slash concerns slash responsibilities, what have you. As you can clearly see, the normal person spends 45% of their time at work or at school, half of their time with family, friends, sleeping, or eating, and about 5% of their time engaging in sexual activity. Whereas the WoW addict spends 45% of their time on quests, a significant portion with their guild, spawning, or foraging, and 5% avoiding sexual activity.
So you asked me here to talk about my daughter Beth, her problems with video and computer game addiction. She quit playing outside. Her health declined. She wasn't taking care of herself. We'd catch her late at night, see the light on in her room from outside our room, would shine out the tree. We knew what she was doing. And it was kind of a seduction, because you would always win, and there was always a new level. There was always something new, and she really pulled into it.
We can then infer or deduce or come to the inference or deduction that a WoW addict or a Halo fanboy or a Barbie's horse adventure enthusiast is just like a normal person, but their realities have been replaced, and if I may, misplaced. Now, sadly, this means that they cannot become functioning members of society. Absolutely not. You see, they have no social skills, certainly no training in any sort of specialty, and they're probably way too weak and clumsy to work in a labor camp. From the perspective of the country, it's a lose-lose situation, or a dilemma, or a conundrum, or a state of being stuck between a rock and a hard place, or just a state of being stuck.
So yeah, I'm in the recovery stages of my addiction. I got into some, I thought they were pretty mild forms of gaming early on. Like my parents, you know, they were pretty liberal at the time. They were kind of in the 60s, 70s, and they got me an Atari. I really loved the Atari. But my neighbor got a ColecoVision, and I guess it just went all downhill from there. So my first real hardcore game was, I think, Mario Brothers, where there was that trick where you could jump on turtles and get infinite lives. That was really empowering, really empowering. I felt like I was on top of the world, like I couldn't die, I just couldn't. And you know, there's unlockable features, and eventually my life started getting washed out. And the more and more pixelated I became, the less and less I was connected and online with my real life. And then finally, I think what broke me was WoW. That's World of Warcraft. And yeah, people started calling me by my in-game name. I'd forgotten what my real name was. And it wasn't until I think that they had an intervention and they finally pulled the plug that I realized how deep I was.
There are indicating or signifying symptoms of video game abuse that are easy to identify, or if you will, easily identifiable. But in order to observe these addicts, you have to get close to them, and that may involve penetrating their home base, which you must understand is a difficult task. Video game players do not want anything being penetrated. They have anti-penetration systems in place, almost always. Their fortresses or castles or space stations are heavily fortified, and some may even say they're impenetrable. which really sucks if you're trying to research them and has made my life hell.
When they first started coming out with these things, we'd say, go ahead, honey, do what you want. You're good. You've been good, do your thing. We didn't know. We weren't paying attention. We weren't paying attention. We were just letting her do her thing. Sick. They were like electronic babysitters. You know, it's like we were too busy with our lives. We were too busy. How can you be too busy for your kids?
Now, we have been able to pattern some personal effects, and what's important to know here is that these personal effects do translate into economic effects. For example, as you can see, the more WoW addicts there are, the more dead cats there are going to be, and that's really going to kill trade with Asian countries. The more WoW addicts there are, the more the terrorists win. That's really the bigger picture here. I cannot stress that enough. I mean, how many Al-Qaeda members do you know that are level 70 warlocks? How many Al-Qaeda members do you even know?